Well, let's move on to BRICS then, because no matter what anybody thinks about China, at the end of the day, this is a very significant event. This took place the last few days, finished yesterday in Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, of course, Vladimir Putin was not there by mutual agreement, in inverted commas, because of the international arrest warrant that exists. So therefore, Russia was represented by Sergei Lavrov, although Putin did join the event remotely by video link. So I just wanted to run through a couple of the comments by Xi Jinping and get both your thoughts on this. So here he is. He was made these statements on Thursday. Is that yesterday? Lose track. We need to promote development and prosperity for all. Every country has the right to development, and the people in every country have the freedom to pursue a happy life. I thought this was a very interesting statement, of course, because he's referring to the old colonial past. We'll get some comments in a second of that. Let's move on with the next bit. We need to achieve universal security. Facts have shown that any attempt to keep enlarging a military alliance, expand one's own sphere of influence, or squeeze other countries' buffer of security can only create security predicament and insecurity for all countries. Now, of course, on the face of it, that is referring to Ukraine and the Russian situation, the Russian special operation, but not only that, because, of course, recently there was a defense pact signed, if we can bring this on screen, between the US, South Korea, and Japan. And this Korean outlet is very much pushing back against that defense pact. But this is an expansion of NATO effectively into the Chinese realm, if you like. And so this news outlet is running a campaign against this US, Japan, South Korea trilateral agreement and the potential of where it's going to go. So a quote from this is saying, a military alliance between South Korea, the US, and Japan will lead to an adversarial relationship with China, Russia, and North Korea, and dramatically worsen inter-Korean tensions on the Korean Peninsula. We object to the three leaders integrating their countries in a trilateral military alliance. So we'll come on to this a bit more in a second, but coming back to Xi Jinping then, here's another thing he said. We need to stay committed to exchanges amongst civilizations and mutual learning. One flower alone cannot make a beautiful spring. Only blossoming of a rich variety of flowers can bring spring to the global garden. So, this, on the face of it, seems like enthusiastic support for the idea of national sovereignty. And so on, he went on to say, deliberately creating division with the assertion of democracy versus authoritarianism and liberalism versus autocracy can only split the world and lead to a clash of civilizations. So, Vanessa, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that before we move on to the next section of this.
Well, I mean, I think he's correct. I think what we're seeing from the West is this constant. I mean, I've just talked about it in Syria, right? The West benefits from division. China and Russia seem to benefit from unity and from countries working together to develop their own resources, etc. So, yes, I think it's correct.
Yes. Okay, well, let's move on then. We've got a little bit of video here of the announcement of the new BRICS Development Bank.
We have decided to enter formal negotiations to establish a BRICS-led new development bank based on our own considerable infrastructure needs, which amounts to around $4.5 trillion over the next 5 years, but also to cooperate with other emerging markets and developing countries in future. Our resolve extends further to also establish a BRICS contingent reserve arrangement. We are working towards related initiatives in our economic deliberations to further strengthen our intra-BRICS cooperation.
So the point here is they don't want to play with the West anymore. And I think this is the key point here. What's the difference between this new development bank and what we've seen with the World Bank and the IMF in the past? Well, this quote from Dilma Rousseff probably highlights it. Our financial support is provided without onerous conditions. And of course, as we've seen many, many times in the past, infrastructure projects in Africa, other developing nations have needed to be funded. They've been funded through the IMF and so on, and they've been funded in such a way that there have been preconditions, not only in terms of political change within a country to a Western narrative, but also financial change within a country to a Western narrative, and so on. So, and also a lot of the contracts went to Western companies as well. So this, on the face of it, if we accept it at face value, is something completely different. So now let's now look at the South African president here, Ramaphosa. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
So that might seem like expansion, but of course not military expansion is the key point here. But let's just briefly have a look at what the Western response to this announcement was. Well, the headline in the Telegraph from Con Coughlin, the Defence and Foreign Affairs editor, was BRICS is now a motley crew of failing states. And then he goes on to slate the whole thing, but then he talks about India, the particular concern that India should be grabbed by the West. So he's saying India's real adversary is China, not the West, which makes an absurdity of its continued membership of BRICS. Far better to tempt India into the West's embrace. What a turn of phrase there, by making it a member of, for example, an expanded G8, a globally recognized body firmly committed to economic growth and democratic values. A globally recognized body? Okay, well, we'll see. But let's look at the next response, in a sense, to what's been going on with BRICS. And this is from the Atlantic Council this time, because we've got to have more war. And really, at the end of the day, Brian, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but it seems to me that these countries are rejecting the war narrative that we've been fed by the UK and the US over the last 20 or 30 years, and wanting to do something different. So we put this from the Atlantic Council back on screen. The United States and allies must be ready to deter a two-front war and nuclear attacks in East Asia. So they're saying that, well, instead of recommending that the US maybe wants to organize some kind of peace, instead they need to increase the military presence in the region, because that's going to help, isn't it?
Well, war is good for the West, Mike. It's as simple as that. It's good for the banks. It's good for the banking system. And of course, the objective is divide and rule. So war is good for the West in all respects. And that's clearly the agenda here. I just want to say, though, the Telegraph has sunk to the pits because they can't come out with a respectable analysis. They have to use, what was the word? Motley crew.
Yes.
Can you not do better, Telegraph? And the answer to that is no, I don't think so. Well, let's end on some